And as regards to lowering the tax for your own vehicle, and I got the state records.
Yeah.
That's there.
Yeah. Is it?
Oh, it's there, 2%.
Well, I mean, how much money was it?
I mean, I can calculate it, but that's still what you should not be doing, man. You know that.
Oh yeah, I mean, maybe at the time, possibly.
What do you mean?
I mean,
well, okay, hold on. Let me back this up because there's a little bit of a. Let me see if I get this story right.
Sure.
Because data can tell a story, and I don't want to assume anything with this. But you lower it down to 8. That then spreads to Cornwood, Denzel, Kid Archer, and a few other members of PD. Xavier Monroe, and then the next day you lower it down to 2. So you go 24, 8, and 2.
Yep.
And it on average is 17.5, bud.
Yeah.
Over the entirety of January from now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to explain this one to me?
When it was 24%, it was lowered from 30% because that's as low as I could take it because the old tax system, the way that worked, I was only able to lower it 1%. And then I lowered it again, and then I lowered it again.
That's your story. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm buddy, you're the only one out of this entirety of any sort of vehicle purchase from start of January to now that has benefited from that.
Well, yeah, but like which car was purchased? I don't even.
Your carbon is there for $260,000.
What would the price have been before that?
Well, I mean, there's tax on top of it, so it's a flat fee. So you just have to basically multiply by 1.02 or times 1.24, which gives you the total amount to it. So it's not that. It's the principle of the matter is that you're using it for your own at that, and you're the only one that has benefit. Minus the 8 with Ray and Cornwood and Denzel and everybody else.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. What would the price have been before that?
Well, I mean, there's tax on top of it, so it's a flat fee. So you just have to basically multiply by 1.02 or times 1.24, which gives you the total amount to it. So it's not that. It's the principle of the matter is that you're using it for your own at that, and you're the only one that has benefit.
You think?
So I'm trying to get the story straight. I'm asking you. I'm not taking it in front of there. I'm taking this as one-on-one, you and I, because I know how that can go in there, and I want to approach you as a person instead of just go in and just guns blaze.
I mean, you're welcome to do that if you want.
No, I don't want to. I would rather have a conversation.
What's the conversation about?
You're literally using the ability to change the tax rates for your own benefit.
Yeah, it's for everyone's benefit.
You've done it for your friend. No, you're the only one that benefited at 2%.
No, I mean it's at 8% right now. Actually, it might be higher than that.
It is higher than that. Yeah, there's only one time it was 8%. And that was March 20th or 21st.
It was 8%
that was all
for a while.
about like 5 purchases.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, how long ago was this?
This was in March. I think it was right around your election time.
March?
Beginning of it. Should be end or beginning.
I didn't receive the power to actually like fine tune the tax rate until about halfway through my term.
Yeah, it's towards the end of it. That makes sense.
Halfway.
Yeah. Well, what happened was towards the end.
Well, the carbon
Carbon is there. Yeah.
I mean, let's assume for a moment that actually was the reason why it was lowered. You appear to have done some digging.
I have.
Could you possibly maybe calculate the amount of money that was lost? Like if it were not 8% but 2%?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not even sure I would go at 8% because that seemed to be like a flash pan type shit on top of it. It hasn't been 8% for a long ass time, and that seemed to be about a string of 6 purchases.
The way that the state account was generating revenue was different. I raised tax rate for vehicles probably like 15% or some shit. I don't know, to compensate. Yeah,
I can calculate it, sure, but like I said, I'd rather have your answer to this because that is the shit that should not be happening.
Yeah, I mean, maybe now, sure.
No, not just ever. That should happen ever.
Well, yeah, I mean, we all have our own ideals and opinions on what should and should not happen.
Okay, that's fair. I'll calculate it. I'll see what's up. But I wanted to not bring it in front of everyone. Like I said, Cornwood was a benefitter as well, so I don't need to go in there and just start calling shit out on top of it.
Yeah, I didn't coordinate with anyone at all.
No.
So I mean, I don't know who fed you this long-winded.
No one fed it to me. I'm just he was the first person. That's what I told you. This data tells a story, but I wanted to hear from you.
Most of my tax changes were announced. I'd say almost all of them. And the ones that weren't announced were visible in the newspaper. So it's possible that someone saw that they were changed in the newspaper and went to buy a vehicle while the iron was hot.
All right, we'll go with that.
Okay.
All right, everyone.
Okay. There actually is a DOC problem. I think we should make Bobby a regular DOC.
Yeah.
They all fucking hate his ass.
But what's the difference?
Carmine is at least reasonable.
No. I mean, what do you mean regular DOC?
We changed the legislation that establishes Dogtown and remove Bobby's name from that.
Or establish him as under Carmine.
I think that's probably the best fix. I will say, for the record, I don't give a shit about how any of them feel.
Yeah, they already had a civil war. I don't think the legislation really matters matters. I think they're just
they
spewing about
had
nothing.
the Civil War because of the legislation, because they did not have a de facto leader.
They're wasting all that time about pants.
Well, he's not even. They said that Bobby and Carmine aren't even active right now, and Gary Kebin is the interim warden because those two are involved in some kind of like Days of Our Lives something.
I think we should knock Bobby down. He's a better goon.
Been some reports filtering up to me about these guys just being on duty 24/7, just wandering around outside the prison, not with inmates. So,
Oh yeah, I see them doing that all the time, bro.
I don't really care about that.
well, I mean, they're drawing a paycheck, right?
Yeah, a tiny, pathetic little paycheck that
Hey, it's
literally has
double
no
the
effects.
doctors, right?
Sure it
Over
is.
that.
Yeah, it's like $600 an hour. They could make more money doing any other job in the city. So,
Except us.
well, I mean, the same argument could be made for doctors too.
Why are they on duty 24/7, not at the prison?
Based upon the trends that I have observed with the state account, the amount of money that they're getting paid is so fucking small and insignificant. It literally does not matter.
Other point here that gets a little complicated. Aren't they using the DOC train to come into the city?
Is that a thing?
It is a thing
I
because
think
I
we'll have it
I
if they
hired
have their
myself
keys.
and I have a train ticket.
Okay, well, we should ask the state to remove that then, especially because that's kind of like an outdated concept considering our implementation of Dogtown.
Yeah. I don't have a problem if they're using it to come to the city and provide DOC services, but if they're using it to come around and just fucking shitlord around the town, then that probably is an issue. So we'll look into that.
Okay, well, the date is 5/14/2024. The time is 4:28 Pacific. This is the second Council of 8, and this is our third meeting. We will begin with the Treasurer, TJ Walker. Do you have anything that you would like to present?
Yeah, quick amendment. I know I passed the Funding Transparency Act. In the meantime, I have gotten a shit ton of calls about property transactions. I ain't dealing with that in terms of property.
That has already been addressed. If anyone comes to you with questions about property transactions, and this goes for anyone on the council, you are to direct them to me, and I will filter their interrogatories to the appropriate people. But that is not a topic that anyone in the city will be handling.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. I just want to amend it so it's there in case people look at it, which they have, and keep calling me with this shit. I'll add small language to it, but yeah, I'm proposing to amend within the legislation, Funding Transparency Act, which is won 4 days ago. So all transactions, tax changes, employee salary changes, and all else involving state funds, except, I'm just going to type except in there. I can't do it though, because it's on Crane, except property transactions shall be recorded and maintained in a public ledger accessible.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and add in asset fees in there because that's a whole other black hole that we're not touching. Okay.
Yeah, quick thing. It's checked about this morning, probably about 80 million minus the 30 million that we proposed for the emergency fund. So roughly sitting about 50 million in the state account. Max, I recall you saying something earlier about there's a max that it can hold. Do you recall that number?
A max that the state account can hold?
Yeah. Did you say that?
No.
Maybe I'm
no.
mishearing. Okay.
Also, about that emergency fund, there is I have a special bank account because we can't make a bank account right now, unfortunately.
Right.
I can transfer it to the mayoral account though, if we want to get the emergency funds out, and then it can just wait there. It's like its own separate bank account. Like I could, in theory, take money out of it, but I mean, the transaction history will be there, and it'll be pretty evident that nothing is happening to that money.
Do you have the ability to add people to it or not?
No. Well, I'm saying it can be held there until we have the ability to actually make an emergency fund account.
Well, let's keep it there on the main one for now because it's not hurting anything, and I don't want to start fucking around with other shit in case something goes south at some point.
Okay.
That's all I got. Yeah, I'm not giving it to fucking Max right now.
On to me then.
Yeah, Solomon.
Easy. Right. First one is legislation specifically focused on hunting. The first one, currently there is no legislation in place for if someone is arrested in possession of a hunting rifle without a license. This is maybe Mr. Braun is aware of something to do with this. There's been numerous times when I was a lawyer, I was called down to the cells and someone was charged with criminal possession of a class 1, which is an $18,000 fine, and their crime was being in possession of a hunting rifle without a license. So my suggestion would be that we have not only a charge that is relevant to that particular crime, but also maybe a charge for hunting without a license. So it is a sort of 2 for 2.
I think it's reasonable. The hunting rifles have been well publicized, have special safeties on them and everything. So
Yeah. So
Is there not already an appropriate charge for this?
well, I mean, going back to when I had people called into the cells and that was their charge, the officers agreed with me that the charge they were putting onto them didn't fit. But in their purview, their view, that was the only charge they had
What
that they could
charge were
use.
they putting on?
Criminal possession of a class 1. Now, I managed to argue that away just using common sense, but that was the charge that multiple officers have tried to use for someone having a hunting rifle without a license.
We had a conversation about this months and months ago.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like this came up and was addressed and is like handled.
Maybe I'm missing it if it's there, but I've not seen anything.
The concern being that owning a hunting rifle it makes less of an impact than owning a civilian firearm, yet they are the same charge because they're both considered class 1 firearms. Is that right?
Yeah.
Alan put out a state announcement that said that they shoot special bullets that do not harm human beings.
Yeah, smart trigger, right?
Yeah.
The punishment does not fit the crime, but obviously something does need to be there because these people are. How the hell did they get the hunting rifle in the first place? Right. I mean, it could have been robbed. It could have been somebody put it down for a second. They stole it and ran off.
If we make it too low of a charge, then people will just be like relying on other people's good faith, and they'll use hunting rifles to rob people because they know that they'll get less of a charge.
But the counterpoint to that is that people are being arrested with a hunting rifle on their person, not using any violent crime, and they're being treated like they did.
The people that would do that sort of thing generally don't call attorneys, right?
That's a good point.
Jamal's not calling Solomon Walker to, represent him for holding up Senor Buns with a hunting rifle.
No, you're that is correct. I mean, I haven't got a complete top down. All I've got is my own experience.
All right, I just made a misdemeanor. Alex, how much is the hunting license?
Hey, he just made it a misdemeanor.
2,500.
They've all been arguing. Go Crane.
I don't have any legislation to propose. Just been handling the same issue. Struggling with food currently with the vending machine changes, but I'm working with a couple different restaurants on deals on that, so we've been handling that pretty well. I wanted to restart the discussion if you're open to having it from last time. I'm assuming your expectations are the same.
Yeah, I don't think they're unreasonable.
Sorry, what discussion?
About the pay.
In exchange for raising doctor pay by a lot, the mayor's office would like to see that no felons are allowed to work at the hospital or for the medical group, and that every 3 weeks inactive doctors are fired.
Look, I already stated I don't really have an issue with the felony one. However, the sticking point here is the inactivity. I understand that some individuals, like most of us in this room, are here a hell of a lot. Not everyone can be. We already struggle with our activity as it is. We have some very, very consistent people that I'm so happy to have around. There are some people that are kind of, they every couple weeks they come in and
what's stopping you from rehiring them if they come back in?
You want to rehire them every month?
Well, are there people that come?
I cannot hire and fire.
Come once a month.
The thing is, the hire and fire takes a bit of time.
That's why dictatorships are better.
What do you think? So I okay, tactfully and respectfully, I think that 2 months is too long. What do you think a good compromise would be?
To be frank, two months is a me thing. People used to never get fired for inactivity.
Really?
Yeah, that's a new thing. I'm the one who tracks all the hours and goes and does all this and gets it all done. It takes a hell of a lot of time every single month to get done. But I wanted to make sure that we don't have people. To be frank, two months is a me thing. People used to never get fired for inactivity. Yeah, that's a new thing. I'm the one who tracks all the hours and goes and does all this and gets it all done. It takes a hell of a lot of time every single month to get done. But, I wanted to make sure that we don't have people sitting around inactive. So it used to be far worse. There used to be people who would just never come around. But the general consensus was, well, we like them, so we can't fire them. It was like, okay, but they don't work, so there's no point. So I've made these changes. Same with the felony one. It used to only be violent felonies. I pushed for it to be changed to violent and drug related. So some of the changes you're wanting, I'm working on, but it is a lot on me currently.
I had a misconception of the way that you approach this.
Okay.
I did not realize that without you, inactive doctors literally would have never been fired.
Oh yeah, it was bad. I was the first to fire an inactive doctor 5 years ago. It was an intern that had been there like 6 months, but without getting promoted. And
Actually,
like, please let me
I can
fire
back
them.
her up on that because the same thing used to happen with the DOJ. No one ever got fired. But I have been paying attention lately because I have had that kind of itch, So there is a purge coming soon. Because the more often you purge, the more room you then have to justify hiring and giving people chances.
Maybe we can compromise. Okay. What if a week before new elections start, there is a mandatory purge of people who've been inactive for a certain amount of time?
What amount of time are you thinking?
Maybe like a month and a half. I feel like that's a fair compromise, up from 3 weeks, down from 2 months.
Sure. I don't think that's incredibly unreasonably honest, I can move it up and just communicate with them that they're being let go.
I will raise it tentatively for now, back
Sure.
up to 1,000 where it was. If your bosses do not think that, so I don't think felons should work at the hospital, just straight up.
Mhm.
It sounds like you basically agree with me. So
Yes, and I spoke with Janetti more about it. He has no issue with it. It's
Okay.
one of those things where it's always been that way.
So
Alrighty.
why don't we work together if there are any of your bosses who are not convinced and try to get them on board with that. If they disagree, I will probably drop it again. Well, I will go raise it right now. Thank you for cooperating and
Of course.
negotiating with me.
I appreciate that.
So, Alan, do you have anything you'd like to present this meeting?
No, I brought up my shit last week. If I think of anything, I'll let y'all know. I'm sure Mac's gonna love this one. I got a big update today, guys. The business app is coming soon.
Ooh.
Oh, shit.
Oh, good
Ooh, that's
shit.
massive.
Yeah,
Holy
we
hell.
got my wife and I
That is
have
exciting.
probably 30 plus businesses.
There will be an omnipresent focus from my position on sort of rebalancing charges. This will always be a dynamic thing. It will always be a living sort of penal code. There are some things I've been noting lately that seem a little incongruous in terms of certain charges being too low, certain things being too high. So things may change.
Cornwood, you got anything to present?
I have a couple things, real brief.
Sure.
Robbery of financial charge. It doesn't have kidnapping in it, but it
What do you
has
mean?
unlawful imprisonment. It doesn't have the word kidnapping in it, and people keep getting confused, and they keep accidentally stacked. From what I've heard, there's just Can we add the actual phrase kidnapping in there
Good
in addition to
Lord.
unlawful imprisonment? I know it.
I'll just, you know what? I'll just remove it. Right. This is an umbrella charge. Okay. I know what to do. Don't worry.
I might have to talk to Mr. Toe about this, but I thought I'd bring it up in the council meeting regardless.
Tim
Growing
Toe.
concern about when tow drivers are towing away vehicles that are used in the commission of a crime. Their names are listed on the receipt that the registered owner of the vehicle receives. Is there something that can be done with the tow that would show the officer's name who requested the tow instead of the tow driver's name, because they're getting calls and they're getting threatened?
Unfortunately, that has to exist. You need to be able to document the person who requested the tow and the person who did the tow, because let's say, for example, the person who requested the tow, let's say, is the same person that did the tow.
Right.
Then that changes the dynamic when it comes to evaluating whether the tow was done illegally, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The feedback that I got about towing was that it's working as intended. There is no intention to hire or create PD tow.
All of a sudden, nobody wants to take the job.
Well, then PD can fucking document it,
Grab a tow truck and
drive
send
it over there, and fucking impound it themselves. I mean, it's not the first or last time that'll happen.
Got anything else you want to present, Cornwood?
No, that is all that I have.
A few items. I have submitted a piece of legislation for your review. This would be the property allocation for performance and broadcast production space. This bill would propose the state secure and allocate an available property of appropriate dimensions to serve in the public interest as a furnishable and modifiable creative space for public use for filming, live theatrical or musical performance, or any other such unique events that have requirements for modification of environment in a sufficiently spaced interior location. So basically, this earmarks a property, we acquire it, we own it in its entirety, we can inspect it anytime, make sure it's being used appropriately, offset the loss in state fund by having a modest fee for lease and use for creative purposes of this property. Siobhan already had a meeting with the cabinet about this, and my understanding is someone is already willing to sell a property fitting the dimensions that she outlined, which would be 10,000 square feet.
Who?
She can maybe speak on that detail. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty
Ash.
simple. We buy a property, if someone needs an exterior for a movie in the jungle, put a bunch of shrubs around and a green screen, get a skylight in there.
Gee,
Who's gonna
accidentally
own it?
purchased. I think the state would own it.
We could give
but
it to
how do you-
let's give it to Alan. I think he's the best candidate for something like this.
Before the financial collapse, I was paying 3.2 million or something.
Oh,
every
hey.
Fuck
month.
is this?
It's April.
Okay.
What
What in the actual fuck?
hell?
Oh my
What
god.
is
Murphy,
happening?
Braun,
Hi,
we need to,
April.
Who
we
are
need to
you?
talk. We need to talk.
Who are you and why are you
Hi,
here?
ma'am.
Murphy
I'm
can tell you who I am.
a
We need to
little-
talk.
busy
Oh,
you're
right
busy?
now.
We're in a city council
Oh,
meeting.
What the fuck is
We're
going
busy.
on?
Yeah.
Okay, he's busy.
How did-
Well,
how did the
you're
door
also
even open?
single. It's
we
There's
fucking
someone knocking
over.
at this.
Whoa!
I
Whoa!
never loved you. I never
What
loved you.
the
I
fuck?
love the shit you gave me.
Amen.
What the fuck? Where
Hey,
is
that's
this
on
coming
camera.
from?
That was on camera. Keep that in, Ursula.
Hey, we got that bop on camera, Murphy. Don't you fucking worry.
Shit.
So
All
we're gonna
right,
vote on
let's
this thing?
keep the door locked. TJ, I'll set up something with you about, and any other future treasurer about paying the asset fees. I'll just give you an accounting each month. Blah blah blah.
So do you know the address?
I mean, just look up her profile, right?
Yeah, just look up her profile. Mirror Park.
No, that's a cul-de-sac. Someone else must own it, and she must just be representing the sale.
Well, I mean, new properties are opening up all the time. There might
Shoot.
even be an even better property for something like this that like opens up in the future.
There is something specifically listed in this legislation. The state will retain ownership rights of any property left on premises outside of the terms in a temporary lease. So if they leave like furniture or flooring or anything like that behind, that's ours now.
Supermajority 8-0.
All right, so one more thing from me, especially since in the spirit of us getting some, payroll things situated. I know last week it was mentioned that the city council was supposed to get a pay raise to $1,200, but actually didn't. So
Yeah.
I'm actually proposing in step with the judicial spending package and the hospital being sorted.
Well, we already approved it, so all I have to do is just talk to the technician.
All right. But I'm proposing, in step with kind of like, what the judges are seeing in incentives. We don't really have incentives. So I think a sort of a substantial pay increase hourly would be appropriate for what we do.
Is the cabinet supposed to get paid that much too?
So your solution to not having another way for them to sign in was to have them sign in as council members, so they would, in theory, get that pay.
Yeah.
So if a solution can be found to that, then I'm comfortable with a big pay raise for the council proper.
The hospital going up to 1,000 again and all that kind of stuff. I'd say for what we do and, in terms of the feedback we all got to sort through, say somewhere between 2,000, 2,500 would be somewhere in the pocket, and not a compulsory bonus at the end of people's terms. A 10 out of 12 attendance plus kind of like incentive for engagement, just kind of to future-proof this very important table of minds from falling into inactivity. And, as sessions go, we'll have people who are able to make more meetings than others. I think the people who make most of them should get some sort of gratitude for doing so, for putting in all those time. Out of obligation, listening to feedback, I'd say about a third of that has been productive. A lot of the time we spend, we are going to be listening to people who are not telling us something productive. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to knock on anyone, but that's just the way it is, especially in this city. You're going to get, hey, construction, hey, this. So a lot of the time we spent is sort of wasted.
It's not necessarily that construction request that person wants, but rather they are simply trying to have their voice heard and to participate in our government by way of making their suggestions. And not everyone has the same info that we have or know. How much money do you think would be appropriate?
For the incentive, I would rather us discuss that part.
I'll just say right now, I'm okay with the pay raise, the 1,200 or whatever. I think that puts us literally above any other government employee, any other position in the state.
No, it's 2,250.
Oh,
I think that's crazy.
What's income tax right now?
Say
10%?
10%.
I mean, I'm not going to do the math on the lost wages from the 1,200 not being in place from 3 months ago, but I mean, I'm sure there's a significant amount there, and I think that would I think that the 2,250 would more than make up for that.
my personal opinion is that I don't think we need to incentivize people to run for this council. That's been made very clear. People highly covet these positions, and they come with a lot of authority and importance and recognition. And I don't think that, I think that 1,200 is plenty. I'm okay with where we're at, but that's just my opinion. It's only one vote.
Yeah, I'd vote yes to 1,200. I think it's reasonable to be above the other factions. Sure, I would not vote yes to the extremely high rate that is over double any other faction.
Would you like to put a vote for 2,250?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'll put it to a vote, and then if it fails, we can continue to negotiate. I have no issue with that.
Before we do that, can we discuss what you think is appropriate for the end, because that can also distinguish between.
I mean, unless we want to just vote on those separately.
How about this? Let's discuss the bonuses toward the end of the term. I vote yes. TJ.
Yeah, just because of how much fucking other jobs make, and
Canter,
No.
Crane,
No.
I'm a no for the 2000 or whatever.
Cornwood.
Don't really affect me much, but I do think y'all should be supported. So yeah.
Oh,
Aye
Yes.
from me.
come on.
Hi.
Okay. Motion to pay council members 2250 passes.
The other item I was going to bring up is in the omnibus by the chief of staff, so I yield my time. Thank you.
Chief of Staff.
All right. Yeah, so there's an omnibus spending bill, but before we get into that, I want to touch base on what we had brought up last week. I was hoping that they would be here to present it, but I've not got any texts. They knew what time it was. I communicated them yesterday. But for Pride is coming up. It is coming up
Love Pride.
real quick, right? We're halfway through May right now. It's May 14th. We only got essentially a couple of weeks to start planning. Really, good news is Bo Babcock, Gabby Brito, and a couple of other. It is under Report 6251 in City Council documents. There is a link to their event proposal. The big
Isn't
thing that
this
they
just-
really need, Crane, is what you've done for them in the past.
Isn't this just covered under the TJ thing? He funds events.
It is, but there's something that you need to help with. So I just wanted this to be here on the record for transparency. We can talk more about it later.
What part do I need to help with?
Something you've done for them in the past. It's on slide 10. Now, I'm not sure if it's possible still or whatnot. This is why I wanted to bring it to you.
Yeah, I haven't done that in the past, but I'm pretty sure I would be asked to this time. I will run it up the chain.
Moving on to the omnibus spending bill. That is the allocated spending bill CB1. I don't want to bring this to a vote today, but I did want to bring this up in general.
My last communication regarding that topic was roughly the same outcome that Max's was, in that whole program has been discontinued. I can double check and see if that is going to be reinstated ever or what the parameters are for that, and then bring that back to the council next week.
Okay, sounds good.
I like the concept.
Love the concept.
I tried pushing for it in the very beginning after the financial collapse, and everyone that I reached out to was not interested in running it. So
Okay, so where do we stand?
We'll table this. I just wanted to bring it up, have people look at it, talk about it in the future. I'm probably going to bring it up for a vote next week, but looking for collaboration throughout the week before next meeting. To the only thing that I really did want to present today for a vote, which is the Food Safety Administration. I feel like it should be food and safety, but food safety. Take a second to read through it. Kind of move some things around to make it make more sense, I think, with what the tools that we have are. At the end of the day, this is about job creation.
I don't want to be a stick in the mud, but there's some limitations that exist. For example, Senor Buns doesn't provide their own ingredients and they are unable to affect the quality of their ingredients personally. So they are right now hard capped at, mediocre food. I'm unsure if that's going to change.
I
Yeah.
put out an exception for them.
Yeah.
I'm unsure if that's going to change, but that's the reality. I do know that in terms of the booths and all that, there are likely some controls coming. But again, as Max and I have ping pong back and forth,
Could be never.
soon TM, right? If and when we do have the ability to remove booths from people and stuff, that might help in terms of getting them open more often. As of now, they're barely open as it is. So
True.
I'd be loath to shut anyone down because they had mediocre food, considering we can barely get people to open them to begin with.
So another idea, rather than shutting them down, is requiring them to post their health reading. Doesn't shut them down, it at least creates transparency for what people are ingesting.
You do need to know what kind of shit you're getting.
And that's not to say that the standard couldn't be low for the initially and then be raised in the future as we're able to access better quality ingredients, maybe import stuff. Don't know, maybe we can grow better stuff here locally. But as we move towards that, it could always be like a moving target.
I would say like maybe 35 to start, because it's, a lot of people are just kind of understanding or trying to get, as you were doing the other day, was the whole genetics and everything else, trying to understand that shit. I don't think people are quite at that point where they're like, yeah, I can afford everything that's 50 or above, wherever the fuck that is. I don't even know how you rate that shit. Honestly, I'm not a food person, but yeah.
Andy actually came up with a really cool checklist for this, for like food and safety inspectors, that I would probably want them to utilize.
How are we paying these people?
Great question.
Because we're creating a lot of positions and, trying to figure out how we're going to deal with all that.
Creating a neoliberal. I'm about job creation. I did put down that it would be funded by a 1% increase in property tax.
Sales tax.
Sales tax, is that what I put down? I don't know if I chose property or sales.
Property was the other one.
Okay, got it. Okay, yep, sales tax.
Who's this? The Secretary of Commerce and Labor
Yep.
would keep like inspection reports and time cards from these folks and then submit them to the treasurer.
Yep.
What do you want them to do if you say, hey, TJ, I've got a time card? Oh, what are you asking me to do with that?
Well, I'm saying we could set up like, a rate that they would earn for each inspection or something.
Okay.
And then, you know, once you come up with the amount, I could always pay them out.
Okay.
So
There is not.
the issue right now, and this is all being worked on, so I don't want to dwell on this because it's not our problem.
Yeah.
The booths went on sale at a specific time, right? Which happened to be after the morning sort of tsunami. So all the booths got purchased, and then you can purchase them. I think it's by day, if I'm not wrong. So you can purchase them for a certain amount of money per day. And so some people bought a booth for 2 months. Some people bought a booth for 2 weeks, some whatever, right? The issue is that the booths very rarely go unpurchased or unaccounted for, but inversely frequently are not staffed or open. Even more of a prevalent issue when it comes to time zone, because for example, if all the booths became open at 2 p.m. Eastern for purchase, then most of the booths will only ever be staffed and or organized by someone who's in that time zone. 35 is what I think the basic, like that's what Senor Buns has.
Okay.
So if you put it at 35, then it would allow for, you know, inspectors to do their job, you know, in a way that's not restricted by outside forces. So you could still have the back and forth of an inspector telling people, hey, get your numbers up. You're at the bare minimum, you know, but also not put a booth out of business when we can't afford to do so.
Totally.
Makes
Okay,
sense.
cool. Any other comments, questions, concerns, things that they think we should have amended or adopted on this? Max?
Yay.
TJ?
Yep.
Solomon?
Yep.
Canter?
Yes.
Alan?
Yeah.
Cornwood?
I'm gonna vote no. I think the food should be higher quality, the highest quality.
Murphy?
Yeah.
Alright, me, yay. Perfect. It
Stick it to the
passes.
man, Cornwood. Good job.
Do you have anything else to present, Chief of Staff?
I don't think so, but give me 1 second to add the votes.
Good meeting, everybody.
And as regards to lowering the tax for your own vehicle, and I got the state records.
Yeah.
That's there.
Yeah. Is it?
Oh, it's there, 2%.
Well, I mean, how much money was it?
I mean, I can calculate.